My name is Alex. I'm 31. And in the moment my mother referred to my wife as nothing more than a fruitless vine in front of my entire family, I understood precisely what my next move would be. It was Christmas 2023, and we were all packed into my childhood home, that imposing Tudor with dark wood everywhere and family pictures arranged like monuments to my mother's idealized version of our lives. My wife Chloe was trying to help in the kitchen, making an effort to be useful despite the fact that Eleanor had made it abundantly clear over the past 3 years that nothing she did would ever be satisfactory for her cherished son. "Chloe, darling," she had said, her voice laced with that specific kind of maternal sweetness that was always a prelude to something cutting. "Perhaps you should just focus on the decorations. Preparing a meal requires a certain touch that comes instinctively to true fathers." The room fell silent. My brother Michael glanced down at his tablet. My father cleared his throat and said something about the stock market. And I, her husband of 3 years, just stood there stirring the sauce with mechanical focus, as if I hadn't registered a thing. But my wife heard it. She heard the emphasis on true fathers. She heard the cumulative weight of all our unsuccessful attempts, every negative test, every fertility clinic appointment my mother somehow learned about even though we never told her. She heard 3 years of insinuations about her career ambitions and how she was too self-absorbed to give me children. "Eleanor," Chloe said quietly, setting down a bottle of wine with deliberate care, "I think there might be some misunderstanding here." My mother turned to her with that smile, the one that appeared warm from a distance but became predatory up close. "Oh, about what, sweetheart?" "About who in this family is actually fruitless." The kitchen went dead silent. Even the news broadcast from the living room seemed to pause. Eleanor's face turned white, then red, then a shade approaching purple. "I beg your pardon." I reached into my briefcase and pulled out a leather portfolio I'd been carrying for 2 weeks, awaiting the opportune moment. My hands were steady, more so than they had been in months. "You see, when Chloe and I started having trouble conceiving, we both got tested. Thoroughly tested." I opened the portfolio and laid out the medical reports across her pristine marble countertop like playing cards. "Chloe is perfectly fertile, healthy as can be, a textbook reproductive system," the doctor said. Eleanor stared at the papers as if they were written in a foreign language. "I, on the other hand," I continued, my voice gaining strength with each word, "have a condition called oligospermia, a severely low sperm count. It's likely genetic," the specialist said, "something that often runs in families." Chloe gently took the stirring spoon from my hand. It clattered against the pot with a sound that seemed to echo through the entire house. "The doctor was very interested in my family history," I went on, looking directly at Eleanor now. "Apparently, it can skip generations, but it's often linked to paternal factors. Stress during youth, certain illnesses, environmental toxins. Sometimes even emotional trauma can affect development in ways that don't manifest until adulthood." Eleanor's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. "I've been doing some research," I said, pulling out another set of papers. "Chloe mentioned you had a very difficult upbringing. Financial hardship for years, multiple family tragedies." And I couldn't help but notice. I gestured toward the family photos lining the bookshelf. "I am the only son among your 4 children, and the only one who's had trouble conceiving." The silence stretched so long I could hear the faint hum of the refrigerator. "My brothers all have children," I continued conversationally. "Multiple children, in fact. Michael has 3, Robert has twins, and even young Stephen already has one on the way. It's almost like the genetic issue specifically affects the male line. Fascinating how genetics work, isn't it?" Eleanor was gripping the edge of the counter so hard her knuckles had gone white. "Of course," I said, carefully gathering up the medical reports. "We're not giving up. There are treatments, procedures. IVF with ICSI has very promising success rates for oligospermia. My count isn't zero, just significantly low. With the right medical intervention, we might still be able to have children. I folded the papers neatly and slipped them back into the portfolio. But in the meantime, I thought you should know. Since you've been so concerned about our family planning, I wanted to make sure you understood that when we do have children someday, they'll have half my genes, the infertile half. Eleanor opened her mouth as if to speak, then closed it again. Oh, and Eleanor, I smiled. I really smiled for the first time in 3 years of family gatherings. I recorded that conversation just now. The part where you called my wife a fruitless vine. I've been recording our conversations for months, actually, building quite a collection. Chloe's been asking me why I've seemed so distant from my family lately, and I think it's time I showed her exactly why. I pulled out my phone and tapped the screen. Eleanor's voice filled the kitchen, crystal clear. Instinctively to true fathers. Chloe's face went ashen. My father appeared in the doorway, drawn by the silence. Michael and Robert peered in from the dining room. You see, I continued, addressing the room now, she's not the problem here. She never was. She's a successful software engineer who owns her own condo, maintains her own credit score, and has been nothing but respectful to this family, despite being treated like an outsider from day one. She cooks, she cleans, she shows up to every birthday and holiday with thoughtful gifts. She listens to stories she's heard a dozen times and laughs at jokes that weren't funny the first time. I looked directly at Chloe, but I will not be gaslit into believing that our fertility struggles are her fault when I've known the truth for 6 months and have let my own mother blame her anyway. Chloe's mouth moved, but no sound came out. I love you, I said to her, and I meant it. But I love myself more, and I'm done being the scapegoat for my family's inability to face uncomfortable truths. I turned back to Eleanor, who was still gripping the counter like it was the only thing keeping her upright. As for you, Eleanor, I have a proposition. You can apologize publicly in front of everyone here for the years of verbal abuse and emotional manipulation. You can acknowledge that my fertility issues are not Chloe's fault, and you can promise to treat her with the basic respect you'd show a stranger on the street. Or, I held up my phone, I can send these recordings to every member of your golf club, your investment group, and your Rotary Club. I'm particularly fond of the one where you said she was probably sleeping around because clearly that's why we weren't getting pregnant. The color drained from her face completely. Your choice, I said, but choose quickly because the roast is getting cold and I have somewhere else to be. Eleanor looked around the room at Chloe, who was staring at the floor, at her husband, who was studying the ceiling, at her sons, who were looking anywhere but at her. She started, then stopped. I'm waiting, I said pleasantly. I'm sorry. The words came out as barely a whisper. I'm sorry, but I didn't catch that. Could you speak up and maybe be a bit more specific about what you're apologizing for? Eleanor's hands were shaking now. I'm sorry for the things I said about you. About the fertility issues being your fault. They're not. I know they're not. And I should have treated you better. You're my son's wife, and you're a good person. It wasn't the most gracious apology in the world, but it would do. Thank you, I said. That wasn't so hard, was it? I walked over to Chloe and kissed her cheek. She still looked shell-shocked. I'm going to my brother's for dessert, I told her. You can stay here and process this with your family. Or you can come with me, your choice. But if you stay, I said to my family, we are going to have a very long conversation when I get home about boundaries and respect, and what it means to be a husband. I grabbed my coat from the hall closet and headed for the door. Alex, wait, Chloe called after me. I turned back. She was standing in the doorway looking lost and younger than her 29 years. I didn't know what to do. she said. "She's your mother." "She's my mother," I agreed. "But you're my wife. And for the past 3 years I've let her treat you like garbage because it was easier than standing up to her. That stops now, or I stop being your husband." I walked to my car without looking back. As I pulled out of the driveway, I saw Chloe grab her coat and keys through the window. She followed me to my brother's house. We spent the evening with people who actually liked her, eating pie and playing card games and laughing at things that were actually funny. Chloe was quiet most of the night, but she stayed. She stayed with me, and when we got home we talked until 3 a.m. about respect and boundaries and what our marriage was going to look like going forward. It's been 8 months since that Christmas. We're in couples therapy. Chloe has started standing up to my mother, not perfectly, but consistently. Eleanor and I aren't friends, and we probably never will be. But she treats me with careful politeness now, like I'm a small explosive device that might go off if handled roughly. We started IVF last month. The first cycle didn't work, but our doctor is optimistic about the second. And when we do have children someday, because I believe we will, they'll grow up knowing that their father is not someone who accepts being treated as less than he is. Sometimes the best revenge isn't elaborate or cruel. Sometimes it's just refusing to carry shame that was never yours to begin with. Sometimes it's standing up and saying, "No more," and meaning it with every fiber of your being. The recording app on my phone is still there. I don't need it anymore, but I keep it as a reminder. I am not responsible for other people's comfort with the truth. I am only responsible for speaking it. And speaking it, I discovered, feels a lot like flying.